and welcome to the first episode of the Friend or Foe Lounge Season 4, brought to you by the Adobe Creative Cloud and Logitech. I am your friendly neighborhood shoutcaster, Shargan, and I have joining with me today Yubi's very own utility monster and JeffGodGamer, also our Friend or Foe's very own Fang over Fang. Guys, how are we doing today?
Doing great.
Wow. Doing great.
Pretty good.
What
Awesome.
an intro, dude.
Well, you're very welcome. I try. It's not
Bang
like
in the cap, boys.
Yep. I mean, it's just gotta put that feather in the cap every single time, right? All right, so today's this is going to be our first episode of the Friend or Foe Lounge. We are going to be posting this onto the YouTube channel for now. However, the goal is going to be to get it live on air Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time and Saturdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time as well. That is going to be kind of like our future schedule, so we're actually going to be having the stream running then. We'll also be opening it up for some stuff in the future. We might get a little bit more stuff going on in there, so keep your eyes out for that at twitch.tv/frienderfoe FoF esports. Sorry, twitch.tv/FoF esports. We'll be doing that there. But so for today, we're going to be talking about Helios League, which is our kind of Monday, Tuesday games that we got, or sorry. We're going to be talking about Helios League, which is going to be our Thursday, Friday games. And then we're going to be having our Monday, Tuesday games, which are going to be the Luna League. So we got two separate things going on this season, kind of changing things up. And basically what we've got here is Utility Monster and JeffGodGamer, you have both done some power rankings for these teams. And so just kind of we got it up on our website. And so we're just going to kind of go down the list of what we got. Looks like the first team we got listed here is going to be PENTAKILL TEEMO Please, which has got a lot of returning players. Let's do Vano, Graviel, Pure Llama, Brown Jesus, who I believe was a new addition, and Big Dekus, who is also a new addition as well. So just kind of, why don't you guys give me like a little bit of rundown? I'm already loving these guys' team names, just to be fair.
Well, so PTP last season didn't win a game. So already can't do worse, which is, a positive, I guess. I guess they did win a show match, but their top laner was involved in a car crash, I think. So he was fine, but they had to get a sub, so it didn't count for standings. So yeah, we started them sort of ranked last until they can prove they can win. But I actually am really bullish on them this season. I think that they had chances last season and got unlucky to not win a game, and I think that some of the teams this season are actually maybe not looking so hot. So I don't know, they'll have to prove that they can actually win, right? You have to do it once, but I think that they have a pretty good shot at putting up a decent season.
Yeah, PTP definitely is sort of near the top when it comes to like average rank of their team and their players. And for PTP, the only way to go after last season is up. So I'm really excited to watch their new players and, talk again with some of their old players, because getting to play with them and talk with them, they're really cool guys and they're pretty fun to talk to and to play against.
Yeah, no, we
He's
definitely
also been around since season 2, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So they are one of the teams that have actually been together for a longer time, especially in the Helios leagues that are like newer teams that are just forming recently. When PT
They do have two new solo laners. Their solo laners are new.
That is true. Hopefully they can be upgrades from last year, where I think they went 0-14.
Yeah.
So
With an asterisk.
with an
Because
asterisk.
they did win a game.
Yeah.
It was technically a forfeit, but they won.
Hey, a win's a win, in all honesty. Sometimes you got to take what wins you can get. One thing I did forget to mention is you two are actually playing. You guys are going to be playing in the Luna League, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
And so that means that these are kind of teams that you're not really having direct interaction with. Have you had a chance to scout out your own league, or have you kind of been sucked into focusing on Helios for now?
Okay, so I do most of the draft prep for UB, and I have scouted both of our opponents for week 1, and that is it. I have no idea what any other team is doing. I've spent way more time scouting teams in the league I'm not in, because I wanted to produce the best power rankings possible.
Mm-hmm. And I do think there were some great power rankings.
For me personally, since I'm not too heavily involved in draft prep, I sometimes look at some of the other teams that we're playing against, but mostly for me it's just the knowledge that I'm probably still better than everyone alongside Brian, so we're not too concerned, at least in my opinion.
Let's go, dude. This is the content I love to hear.
This is
What
this
an
is what
egotistical asshole.
This is why we make this show. So, all right. So next up we have Gorilla Muffins. So this is a team that we've had in previous seasons, and they weren't able to play last season. They were. And then we do have Bacon Pancakes, who's definitely returning. He was kind of a fan favorite for a lot of different reasons. And there's a lot of veterans in this team. So what was kind of the standout specifically for Gorilla Muffins for you guys?
For me personally, first of all, big shout out to Girl for having the only other 4-letter acronym for their name besides UB. I'm a big fan. I think Bacon Pancakes will probably have to be the main carry threat, and as his other laners are a little lacking in terms of personal rank, which they might still work really well as a team, so they'll have to win mostly through team play or through Bacon Pancakes. But I'm really excited to see what Street Smurf can do with this team. I think he's a good player, and I'm excited to see what he can do as a coach.
He's had some decent coaching stuff with us already. Like, we've done a couple of sessions. He's walked us through draft phase. I am a sub on this team. Just full disclosure, no bias whatsoever.
100%
Little known
biased.
facts about Girl or Bacon Pancake specifically is that UB actually played against him, but there's no record of the game because the replay was corrupted before it made it to YouTube. But in qualifiers for season 3, we actually played against. He was on Team Yup, and he was their top laner. And we actually, in the draft, he was the player we were most worried about then as well, because in the previous qualifier matches we'd seen, he. The games that they won, he sort of put on his solo carry pants. But I think it's hard to have. I mean, you can impact the game from top lane, of course, but I think it's hard oftentimes to take over the game in the same way that you can from other roles. So I think definitely they're going to be really reliant on having sort of lanes that are good at not getting too far behind if they're individually outmatched, and then taking advantage on the macro sense of all the opportunities that they're handed.
So got to be watching.
And if they can't make the team play work, then this could be a long, sad season.
Yeah, it could definitely get very, very rough. That's for sure. Just looking at some of the quality of teams that they're going to be going up against. So Bacon Pancakes and Street Smurf are going to have to be pulling all that weight there. And then we hopped on here to Coin Flip Gaming, who I think is one of the first new teams that we have joining the Friend or Foe family. So these guys, it looks like you put them at they're ranked 5th in terms of logo, and I have to admit, I like that little logo, the rabbit with the little bow tie. Pretty nice.
Yeah, how is that not first, by the way? I actually have huge gripes with that.
So quick update. They changed their logo after submitting the power rankings. Their original logo was also quite good, but I would say that their new logo would get some bonus points in my rankings.
You also put girl. Wow, English at what is it, 7th right now, dude? They got to be bumped up. They're way better.
Really?
Than
No, they're
bro. Come on.
That's a cupcake, not a muffin. The name's wrong. The logo's wrong. You know, who likes strawberry?
Looks delicious.
No one likes strawberry frosting.
Yeah. So
I love
CFG.
strawberry.
Trying to keep us on track here. CFG has actually already had some roster difficulties. I think they had some internal issues, and they were looking for sort of a last minute new support. They picked up, I think, 2 is the current plan, and one of those 2 is Build a Pony, who's also a UB sub. So I have some context into their roster. They're individually sort of average. I don't think you're expecting any of them to sort of take over the game, but you're also not expecting any of them to be a liability. And so they'll for sure win games. But the question of will they be sort of a below average team or above average team or a dead average team will really come down to, again, their Mac play and their macro. And it's really hard to judge that, having never seen them play. So, sort of jury's out until we actually see what they're capable of moving around the map and playing as a team and all that jazz.
Their captain has told me to watch out for Sadist, their AD carry, as he is looking to take over the league, which is really exciting for me to hear, because last season, AD carry play in FoF was severely lacking. So I hope the new AD carries bring in a lot of competition to the league.
Yeah.
Expect really big things from CFG. Actually, from the few interactions I've had with their mid laner, who's their captain, they actually seem like they really want to win. Of course, they're getting rid of Set's, what is it, YUUMIVERSAL, I think that was the name, which is a great name. But they're having a new support player, Sonafine, who I think Josh talked about earlier. But I actually expect this team to do pretty good. I almost guarantee they'll be a top 4 finish actually in this league.
If I remember correctly, we did have a scrim the other day against them, and when it was a best of 3, like just 3 games, and it was a trip. Let's just say it was a trip. I learned a lot that game, and you learn more from your losses than you do from your wins.
Yeah, they're playing 2 supports. So Sonafine is going to be there. I believe the current plan is, and this will probably change throughout the season, but their current plan is I believe Sonafine plays Thursdays and Build a Pony plays Fridays.
Which is honestly, so like that's going to be something that's kind of interesting. Like we've said, we haven't had a chance to actually watch them play, and I think that's really interesting with a lot of these new teams coming in. Is we haven't had that opportunity yet. So I'm really excited from a caster's perspective just to see what kind of games we're going to be getting out of these guys and what kind of crazy comps we're going to be getting. And so I'm really stoked on that. Just straight up. And then hopping down, we have Terracotta Gaming, who's technically, they're not exactly a new team. They're kind of they're like a new team in the sense that we've seen them before with Team Spear and Team Sword. It's the same organization. So did you kind of get like a general feel for Terracotta, just kind of looking at it, be like kind of recognizing some things based off of previous experience with those teams?
So Aquapair is their current top laner. He was their former mid laner last season before he was benched for Jovi, who's they're still their mid laner. Cam and Jovi, the jungle mid duo, sort of started midway through last season, and they were quite impressive. So I think the hope for sure is that they continue to improve and show up. Their support, Oriri, was the support for Team Spear rather than Sword. And he had to take a break for personal reasons halfway through last season, so hopefully he can come back to form, and their AD carry is completely new. So, like you said, a bunch of players we've mostly seen before, but we haven't seen them work together. Individually, I think they're quite good. I think they can expect to always hold their own and sometimes get some lane advantages, but both the Sword and Spear organizations last year, I think, really had macro that was average at best, and sometimes sort of a little bit baffling. Some of the decisions they were making didn't always make the most sense, or didn't look like everyone was on the same page. And so I think if they can shore that up, they'll be a really solid team, but that's sort of the harder thing to judge until they actually start playing.
Yeah, fortunately for Terracotta Gaming is 4 of their 5 players have experience playing in FoF before. They know what it's like to play in these kind of longer seasons and just sort of to buckle in and take the losses with the wins to try to learn as much as possible going into playoffs. I'm really excited to see Cam and Jovi play again. They were one of my favorite duos to watch. I think this is a very solidly middle of the pack team based off their players alone, but their team play will definitely be what pushes them into potentially a top 3 spot.
Yeah, more than likely that's probably going to be what we're going to see the case, because I think I remember a team of solo queue players was something that we had mentioned during broadcast a couple of times, just by looking at the way it was working. Like, it didn't seem like it was total cohesion. So hopefully now that they've gotten over that first season tournament competition, where it's like whenever you first join a tournament, sometimes you've always got a little bit of growing pains, and it seemed like they were getting improved over the course of it. So hopefully they'll be able to get through that. And then we're hopping down here into AEGIS Gaming, one of the other new teams. I don't understand why you have their logo ranked so high, because I'm like, it's not bad. It's pretty cool. I like it. But at the same time, I think that there's more creativity in like Terracotta or CFG.
It's perfectly average at 4th place. Just like their team average, it's pretty high. All their players are Plat Plus. I'm a big fan to watch their support player, Trex, I think is his name.
Yeah, he's insane, man.
He plays a lot of roaming style champions like Bard and Thresh, and I'm excited to see him and Mr. Goat Killer to see if they can roam around the map together and get some leads for their mid laner, which is another thing I'm concerned about, is their mid laner, because they don't have a dedicated mid lane player in their starting lineup that they have listed. but they do have a lot of AD carry players, which might bode well for them.
Or it might mean that they have absolutely no brains and only hands.
Yes. Well, you have what, 2 AD carry players on this panel right here? So,
Yep.
with me and Jeff.
Mhm.
As Jeff said, Trix, I actually think is going to be one of the, I think he might be the best support actually in all of Helios League. I'm actually super high on that player. Just from like looking at his OP.GG, his KDAs are gross, his win rate's pretty good. Like, he seems like a really good player.
Yeah, Aegis and their logo ranking, by the way, you can tell that Jeff and I are both ex-business school people. It's a very clean business logo. But I think they're my dark horse to take the league. I don't think that you can justify starting them above 4th place given their OPGGs, which is all we have to go on right now. But I think if they have sort of the team play and down, they could really surprise people and they could really put in a season to remember.
CFG and AGS are both new organizations, as you just said, and I actually think that they're both going to be relatively good. So I'm excited.
Individually, AGS is higher ranked, so I think that you have to expect that on average they're more likely to do well. But yeah, I think both teams are poised to do well and to really add something to the league stylistically, and that will be fun to watch.
Yeah, no, I think they're definitely gonna be. I'm really excited. Like all of these teams that we have that are brand new, I'm really excited for seeing them. Just because like you look at those UP.GGs and see where they are, and it's really exciting. And then we get into REGALIS right here. This is Joshi's team, which is like a team of NA Academy players and shoutcasters. Which
not players. The players would be too high ranked.
Yeah, not players. Sorry, not players. Shoutcasters. But still. Even so, just having that kind of experience, do you think that that reflects on kind of like their OP.GGs and how we expect them to be performing, just because they have the at least game macro knowledge of having watched NA Academy on a regular period?
Yeah, so they all think about the game a lot because you have to when it's your job, and that means that they'll be really scary from a macro side of things. The worry for them would be both time commitments, because I don't know if they'll be able to make every game, and so their team synergy might actually not always be there. And then make sure that everyone's on the same page, because even though they all watch a lot of League of Legends, they still play it differently. So Joshi is sort of the main voice. He was the UB sub and assistant coach last season. He's still our sub this season, but he is sort of a bloodless macro player. He wants to farm it out, play correct League of Legends, and that's not true of everyone else on the team. So Rafa, the jungler, great play caster, really likes to kill people, and so sort of there's definitely going to be some stylistic clash in terms of making sure everyone knows the plays they're going for and is on the same page. But definitely, yeah, individually they are fine, and then macro will really, I think, put them over the top in a lot of teams, because we've scrimmed them, and they're gonna be scary.
Yeah, we could probably talk a lot about REGALIS as sort of as a group. We've played with all of these players competitively a lot, except for their support, who's a new player to most of us, but we've played with all of these players a lot. We think they're gonna do quite well. We're slightly biased, but I definitely think watching Rafa will be very important, because he will be the main proactive player on the team. He will try to win the game through jungle and making some pretty hype plays while doing it. One thing I want to point out about REGALIS is their coaching staff. They have CLG Miko, the head analyst for their academy team. They have 2 CLO coaches in Cubby and Colomer, who are both really cool people. And then they have another North American Academy caster in Smacks. So based on the amount of help their coaches can give with their players, this team might look to improve a lot during the season, and sort of look to really beat everyone in playoffs coming to the end of the season once they start getting their synergy together.
They're one of the few teams where, like, I think their macro, their brain is better than their fingers. I'm
Fair.
doubting a bit their fingers and their macro, but I actually think that their macro is going to be insane. They have the undisputed best logo by far. 100% agree with that one. I'm just scared they're going to play very, very passive, but I expect them to do good.
Yeah, I think watching how they can integrate with Rafa, their jungler, and sort of support, because he does want to be proactive. And I think everyone else in the team's willing to do it, but it's not their first instinct. So watching how they're able to sort of follow up on plays that he's finding, and especially how they can get their support integrated, because their support, I think, is the biggest wild card to us. He's duoed with their AD carry Alt Battery a fair bit, but he hasn't played fives as much. And I think support in fives is one of the more different roles. I think jungle is the most different solo queue to fives, but I think support is the second in terms of the amount of communication and vision and roaming that's expected of you versus solo queue, where it's much more lane focused. And so I think seeing if they can get him and Mark on the same, him and Rafa, excuse me, Mark is Rafa, on the same page and sort of get them playmaking together, it'll really set the team up for success.
So just out of curiosity, just kind of, I know we're going to do our kind of predictions a little bit towards the end here, but I just kind of want to get a little bit of insight. Do you think it's going to be the bloodlust side of things that pulls out and ends up doing the best? Or do you think it's going to be the mathematically correct League of Legends that ends up winning the day?
I think it'll be mathematically correct League of Legends once they get a lead, but I think it'll be getting those leads that will require them to make proactive plays. And that's where Rafa's going to shine in the early game. And that's where getting their support involved will be so helpful.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to say that because that's how we won most of the time. We didn't really want to have volatile early games. We just thought that we'd out macro every team, so we want to just play clean early games, and then we think we can just beat everyone after, which pretty much worked out. So I definitely am a fan of their play. I in my mind I refer to them as UBB. So I'm still really excited to watch them play.
UBB. All right, so I guess you guys got your secondary team to kind of morph into the meme team. And with that, we've got returning RLS who have changed their name from Ruby's Light Up Sketchers to Restless Leg Syndrome. Not entirely sure how I feel about that, just considering I've suffered from it on occasion. And I know exactly how painful it can be. And Anti has always been kind of fun to talk to, and I've loved playing with him, and I think he's done pretty good. How do you think that they're going to be stacking up against the newcomers that we see coming in, just based off of what we've seen so far?
Yeah, I'm expecting their experience in Mythic League from last season, the Platin Up League, to translate into a lot of Helios success. Because even in Mythic last year, when they didn't get demolished in lane, they put up a lot of fights against other teams, and I think they show that they're relatively smart about the game. I think Anti is one of my favorite casters to watch, just because he's really smart about the game, and I think Anti especially is the person I expect to be the main playmaker for the team, and he looks really good as a player, and I'm excited to watch him.
I think that's about right. In Mythic, they looked better than they had any right to look, given the individual ranks of most of the players. So now that they're coming to a league where their individual ranks are actually above average, I think that they'll surprise a lot of people with how much better they look, just because the players they're playing against are no longer high diamond masters players that are going to smash them in lane every single time.
Yeah, that was honestly the most. Go right ahead.
We talked a bit earlier with the Cat Boys before the recording started, but UB said that they have the best macro in that league, and I think RLS might have not macro, mental. I think RLS might have some of the best mental in this league as well. I'm talking with them in Mythic, there's a lot of rough games that they had to go through with being playing against diamond players and master players, but all of them didn't tilt easily. They always kept a good mindset, and they're still very new to the league, every single player.
Yeah, I think that they will be definitely a team to watch as the season goes on, and especially I think at the beginning, I think they'll look really strong out of the gates, and it'll really be up to them as to how they can grow and continue there, because as a returning team, I think they have sort of an inherent advantage over a lot of other teams immediately, because they have this energy already. They know what they're going for. They know what their identity as a team is. And they don't have to integrate new players. They don't have to, come back to league after a break, which, spoiler alert, our first place team might have been taking a little bit of a break. So I think that there's a good chance they start out first after the first few weeks, and they'll have to keep their spot, and we'll see how they do.
Yeah, I think that they've definitely gone through a crucible already, having had to go through that Mythic League. So I'm really excited to see how they turn things up. And then we have here the last team to be talking about. We've got In the Trees, which just starts with lots of B names at the very beginning. Broccoli 900 and Bow Explode. These guys have been kind of like a staple of Friend or Foe since the very beginning. Just kind of, they always just seem to keep coming back, come back pretty strong. You have them ranked here number one, or second in terms of logo, because obviously UB is the best. I mean, you can't beat UBs. So just kind of give us this rundown of where you think they stand in comparison to everything so far.
Yeah. As a point to make to the other new teams in Friend or Foe, this is my warning to you about INT. They play much better than their ranks suggest. I know most of their team is not ranked very highly in solo queue, but they are really good players. They were the only team to beat us in the regular season last season, and you know that one was a big hurt to our self-esteem. But we definitely think they'll still be a very strong team in Helios. I probably expect them to be like RLS, where they dominate the early few weeks, but they will have to work hard to keep up their top spots. And I think BoExplode is definitely still one of the best junglers in this league, and he's definitely a player to watch.
Yeah, I think BoExplode, we were talking earlier about Rex and how Rafa is sort of the early game playmaker for them, that it gives them the leads that they capitalize on. I think BoExplode is that, but to an even greater degree for INT. He really, when he gets going, will take over the game. And when he doesn't, their team really struggles. And so a lot is on his shoulders. And for the most part, he wins games. So, and that team does really well. So, you know, maybe it's a good strategy. I would worry a little bit more about them in the early season, more than Jeff is, I think. I have some inside information. They've maybe been playing some other games or having busy lives in general. So it's possible they'll have some individual rust. And especially when that's on BoExplode, who's sort of their early game leader and, you know, is getting all these individual advantages that let them take over the game and play the game they want to. That could be rough. But definitely after a couple weeks when they get back into it, I think that they'll be a scary team. One thing that surprised me about INT last season was how little they prepare for these games. I think a lot of the top teams sort of do some draft prep. You know, they want to see what strategies they can play, what they don't want to play against, what champions that their opponents play that they don't want to play against. And INT really just would wing it. And they're so good individually that it didn't matter. And so I think if I worry a little bit that you know maybe catches up to them eventually, but it also definitely speaks to how confident they are in their style, that if they just pick the key champions that they're good at and they load onto the Rift with 5 characters that work, they will beat you. And that's a really strong thing to be able to rely on.
It definitely is. They were definitely very strong as individual players, and it is kind of one of those things where I think their roster is probably one of the few that has gone under the least number of changes.
Yeah, they have all players back from last season and both their subs, and their subs are also very scary. So if anyone is out for a week, don't take it for granted.
Yeah. So INT is definitely going to be you gotta watch out for that forest that's going to be coming right at you. So just real quick, before we move on to kind of talking about Luna a little bit, who would be the top 3 team, player, or coach that you think that people should be keeping an eye out? I know that it's really hard to just pick 3 right off the top, but like the 3 that kind of come to mind. We're gonna go ahead. Let's start with JeffGodGamer. Let's go ahead and get your takes on that first.
Yeah, my probably 3 most important players that I'm excited to watch that are all new players is Treyx, the support for Aegis Gaming, Sadis, the AD carry for Coinflip Gaming, and probably Rafa from Rex, because I want Rafa to duel, and he's a very good friend of mine, so I'm excited to see him play and see how he does against people like BoExplode and the other junglers in the league.
Those are definitely good picks. I would go, I think, with BoExplode, as I already mentioned. He's just such a key part of the way that INT works and generates early gold leads. I'm also going to go with Anti, who I think will sort of be a rock in the top lane and do a lot of things behind the scenes that you have to really watch his games carefully to notice. But I think that a lot of small impacts that will help his team win games. And I think just all of Aegis Gaming, as I said, they're my dark horse to win the league. I think that they will really surprise people with their play. They've played a fair amount of Flex Queue together, which is a good sign that they have the synergy already coming in. So I'm hoping that they start off strong and prove everyone that they belong in the league.
Absolutely. And then Fang, just after having gone through all this, because I know you've been working really hard at getting those Luna power rankings, was there anything that in particular stood out to you on Helios that you think is going to kind of sneak up on folks, just kind of like seeing it from a broad perspective?
A lot of the problems that I've seen with both leagues, but Helios especially, is a lot of teams don't have dedicated players to roles, certain roles. I think like PDP or someone like that. I'm forgetting who, but we're lacking like a legit mid laner. I think it's AEGIS maybe. But these teams are all new teams. Last year was like the takeover of the new teams, the new orgs, with UV and other orgs like that, like COF, where it used to be
previously Falcon Esports.
yeah, who beat the Cat Boys in the qualifiers, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, no, I think the macro is going to be actually really good in Helios compared to the Fingers.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to pick 3 players that I'm interested in, would be Bacon, because I think he's actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't pick Trix and Bow Explode since you guys both picked them. But I think Joshi for Rex is going to be really important, since I think he's going to be one of the main voices on that team. I really want to see how he is. I think his macro is really, really good, especially for being a caster and so involved in ride events, stuff like that. I think Escape for RLS, who's an AD carry player, which is 100% like biased from the AD carry perspective. I think he's actually an important voice in RLS, so I'm going to mark him as my 3rd player.
You can take my Bow Explode, because I have a 4th. My 4th would actually be Jovi on TG. I think Jovi is the type of player who can really pop off in games and take over games from very small advantages. So I think that's another person to watch out for.
All right, so with that, it kind of gives us a quick breakdown of Helios, and so we've got a lot of stuff that we're really excited to see. I'm with you guys. I think Rafa is like probably my favorite one that I'm looking forward to. Just right off the bat, I'm just excited. Every time I see Bloodlust, I just get crazy. Like, I'm like, yeah, let's go. And then with all of that, we're gonna let's talk a little bit about Luna. We'll do a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown. Keep an eye out for that. We'll be posting that video before Luna League starts on Monday. August, blinking on my date.
23rd.
August 23rd. Just because it's not like it's only in a couple of days here. I just kind of forgot what day it was today. So August 23rd, we'll be putting that video up onto the YouTube channel. So let's go ahead, and Fang, you're going to kind of be taking point on this one. Like I said, we're just going to take it from the top, going right down. First up, we got Fraud Squad. That is kind of the ex-girlfriend team that you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. They have the best names, by the way, I think maybe of all time. In all of FoF, like, look at these names. You got Gooch Master, we got Raw Dog Ross, we got Papa Bear. Like, come on, dude. Look at these freaking names. If I was ranking, like, logos like UB and stuff, I would have to rank names, because I love love saying these names as a caster. And FS is definitely that team.
They only have great names if you're as down bad as you are.
Bro, of course I'm down horrible. What do you mean? We play League of Legends. We're all down horrible. What do you mean? In out your mouth? Come on, Josh. In out your mouth. Come on.
Unfortunately, we are neither down bad because we both have girlfriends.
This is impossible.
I apologize.
Women don't exist if you play League. It's impossible.
Well, apparently we've got 2 people who break that rule, so...
It's just your personality. I'm sorry to break it to you.
Ooh,
This is true. This is true.
All right, well, back to this. Back to the team Fraud Squad. Like actually, like, based on what you were able to find out, how do you think that these guys are going to be turning things out during the league?
So these were one of the teams I talked about earlier that they lack players that play a dedicated position.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they need to like get the groove in, like, and that kind of stuff. I don't really know as much to say about them, because like there's a lot of people that, like I said, aren't dedicated roles. I think they have like 2 or 3 AD carry players.
Mm-hmm.
But FS, I think my boy Gooch Master will be good. And Raw Dog Ross, I have to continue to say the name. And then out your mouth, who I think his name got changed, but I think those 3 were probably the best from what I looked at from their team. So I think that those 3 were actually the only people that played dedicated positions.
Mm-hmm.
Raw Dog plays, even though he's a support player, he plays a lot of Vayne. But other than that, let me hand it off to the Cowboys.
Yeah, well, so and then let's see, we got I think it's like 2 more teams that were kind of like newer teams. It was Skill Base and Serenity Senate.
Serenity said it is actually X Sword Shield as well, so most of the players there are returning as well.
Yeah, so they're mostly returning. It's like they're newish kids on the block, and I think that's how it is with SKL as well, where you've got, I know TERRACOTTA is on that team as well. He's kind of pulling double duty on skill-based and subbing for Team Girl, so it's like kind of a little bit of a jump across the board, doing all the jobs. I don't know if you noticed, FoF staff, we fill in where we need to, so.
TO as well.
TO as well, man. So if you got any problems, remember to message TERRACOTTA. All of the problems that you possibly have, message them to TERRACOTTA constantly. Because he loves
I love
that.
messaging TERRACOTTA's problems.
He loves getting all of your problems and hearing about them. But was there anything about skill-based and Serenity Senate that kind of like stood out to you, Fang, whenever you were looking at these two?
Like I said earlier, these are both teams that neither of them really have like standing positions. I mean, they have TERRACOTTA on SKL, so who's my boss? So I can't flame them too hard, or I will be fired. But like I said, a lot of these players do not stick to their roles, so I'm really like interested, and it's hard to rank them any higher than these 7A spots, just because none of them seem like they play League that much.
I think Fang is overrating the importance of being on role, actually. UB last season swapped Civillock and Jeff right before the season started. They'd been playing mid and AD carry, and they swapped, so now Civillock is our mid laner and Jeff's AD, and we did fine. So I think that a lot of it comes down to individual willingness to learn a new role, and then just mindset in the fives game, because the communication in fives is just so different from solo queue anyway.
I would say that there is a little bit in terms of like depending on which lane you're switching to, like what
true.
Because you got to learn like the elements of that lane, like for mid lane.
You definitely do have to learn quickly, and there definitely are new things, and you definitely can fail to learn those things. So it's not, it's definitely not a good thing to switch roles, but I don't think it's the primary thing to be worried about necessarily for a new team, especially because you can learn as you go.
Oh yeah, especially, and that's honestly the thing that we love about seeing here in FoF is just in general, just the seeing people playing in these off roles. Sometimes you end up getting those really crazy plays and really crazy situations where they do something. It's like when you're playing a game of chess, and instead of moving the knight in the correct manner, you move him like a bishop, and you're suddenly like, wait, what? But it worked, and so it actually played out right.
Well, that's actually cheating, but we don't condone that.
So what I will say about SKL is I think that their top lane is really good, Mr. Turbo Ant, and I think One Lucky Fridge, who I dubbed the Indiana Jones Fridge from season 3, episode 3, I think that those plays are really good. All these players for SKL are hovering around that gold, like silver range, besides their AD carry player, who is a Plat 2 player. So, like you guys said, the role swap isn't a huge thing. Actually, this team does play on role, so I'm wrong about SKL. I know that their support player plays a lot of Leona and Zyra and those kind of things. TERRACOTTA, I'm really interested to see how he'll play, as he ends production all the time, and he is probably the worst boss I've ever had in my life.
Well, there goes that job.
Alright, well, we'll have to find someone new for take his spot next week.
Yep.
Sorry, boys.
Yeah,
And
you talk about inting a
5.
job and you say that. Okay.
The top 5 in Luna are all returning teams as well, I believe.
They are all returning teams, so you've got actually place number 1, Fang. You put YUUMIVERSAL Basic Income up there.
Dude, I wanted to put them so low, I'm not gonna lie to you. They asked me specifically to put them low, but I care more about being right than satisfying ego points.
This UB team looks pretty weak on paper. Their mid laner actually has a 48% win rate. He's stuck in gold.
Only plays Malzar.
Only
Galio.
Malzar?
It's not true. He plays Galio too. Don't get it right.
Oh, so you're saying you use 2 bans on him, you eliminate the mid lane.
He shows up to FoF in his Galio fursuit every single game.
What I also really hate about UB is that they only locked in the cat, I think, once or twice, even though the logo is the cat. It's kind of disrespectful. I think they should lock in the cat every single game.
I'm with Fang on that one. I was really disappointed every time watching those drafts. It hurt me inside.
But in addition to us, there's also TAS is returning, BBZ is returning, Church of Alfonso is ex-FEC, and they're returning with some roster swaps. And I'm blanking on the last one.
HBK.
H-Block.
Oh, H-Block, that's right. They're coming back from Mythic.
Yes.
And so they'll also be a tough team.
Yeah. So those guys are coming back, and it's kind of exciting seeing all of them, and it's gonna be. I think it's really exciting just seeing all the, again, like the last season, it was new blood versus old school, and I loved how the new blood just came in and wrecked face. So I'm kind of hoping we'll see that with some of the new blood here, and I'm looking forward to that. And like I said, we'll talk more about HBK and Church of Alfonso a little bit more on the next episode whenever we're talking about the Luna League. But with that, so before we kind of go ahead and wrap this one up, is what would be your final kind of grand predictions for Helios? And then Fang, if you've got anything you want to say about Luna, that you kind of want to look at just kind of as a last thing that kind of just hits you really hard when you think about it.
Yeah, for me, definitely. I think in Helios, the early top 3 is clearly defined in Rex, INT, and RLS. I think TG and AGS are definitely dark horse teams, so you can look to upset the top 3 teams and break into that top 3 spot. I'm currently unsure about PTP and CFG. I think they can surprise a lot of us. And then I'm looking for Sherrigan and Gorilla Muffins to prove me wrong, because I'm currently unsold on this team, and I think they'll struggle a lot in the beginnings of the league.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment. I think PTP is going to go up. Not only can they only go up, but I think they will. I think Girl has a lot of question marks, but maybe they'll surprise us. CFG, AGS, both new teams that I hope excite us. I'm a little bit higher in AGS, but I think both teams are poised to sort of surprise a lot of people and break into top 2, top 3. And then I think, TG is another dark horse candidate. Rex, I think it'll depend on how they gel as a team. And top 2 are easily INT and RLS. They're sort of returning teams, but it'll be up to them to sort of keep improving and make sure they can stay on top by playoffs, because that's ultimately what matters more than the first couple weeks of regular season.
All right, and
I would agree with all that for the Helios League. The one thing that I really want for Helios members to come and take is, 1, play your role in solo queue into the thing. And 2, I need you guys to produce some memes. The Luna League has a lot of memers. And as new players and new teams come into this league, the one thing that I love and enjoy the most is personality. So bring your personality, bring the memes, bring the flame, and I think they'll be fine.
There is a reason we have a hashtag trash talk Discord channel on the main FFS server, and that is where some of the best stuff I've ever seen comes out. It's hilarious.
And if you're a player and you're not a part of that, you are missing out. You should join it immediately, because that's where all the post-game stuff goes. It's not actually any general channel that you will see if you're not part of that channel.
Exactly. All right. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and close things out here. JeffGodGamer, Utility Monster, Fang, thank you guys so much for dropping by. Thank you so much for being here and doing this with us. We're really looking forward to having Helios starting up here, and it's going to be really exciting. Super stoked. And I don't know about you guys, but I just want to say thank you so much.
Thanks
for having us. It was a great time to talk about these teams. I'm really excited to watch FoF start tomorrow.
Yeah, well, tomorrow, relatively speaking, to the recording of this broadcast.
Whenever it starts from when this is uploaded in YouTube.
Whenever it's, we'll get it uploaded as quickly as possible. I think it'll probably end up getting uploaded right before the game. So coming up here in a little bit, we'll be having our first ever matches for the Helios League. So be sure to check us out, twitch.tv/FOF esports. Thank you so much, and we're going to go ahead and say it right here. So have a great night and be safe out there.